Welcome, my name's Darcy Hitchcock, and I wanted to help you understand how you might be able to find your place in the world on the sustainability train, how you could get involved with sustainability. I want to cover a handful of outcomes. One is to share with you how we got into sustainability and why. And the purpose of that is not to tell us our story so much as to show that if we can figure this out, so can anybody else. And talk a little bit about what it feels like to go on this journey. But I want to spend most of my time sharing with you a couple tools that will help you find your niche, and that will be the Lifeline, the Mind Map, and informational interviews. One of the things you need to understand about a career is that you need to find that happy place between what are you interested in, what are you good at, your skills, and what does the world need from you. And so you can't just go off and do a book like What Color is Your Parachute? You have to interact with the real world. But the degree to which you can find a career that has all of those things molded in together, the happier you will be. Our epiphany to get us involved with sustainability was, up until that point, this was we've been in business 21 years now. So when we got started, we were working in the organizational development field, in particular helping people organize self-directed or high-performance work teams. Those are very highly empowered work environments. And we always were kind of smug about the fact that we felt like we were doing a win-win-win. The employees were happier because they had more control over their life, and managers were happier because they got better performance, and customers were happier because they got better quality. So we always sort of patted ourselves on the back and felt like we were doing great things. I came across the word sustainability in management literature and thought, oh, this is interesting. I've always loved nature and I've always been interested in business, but I've never heard the two of them in the same sentence. So we held a think tank to explore what could this mean? Can sustainability and capitalism coexist or support one another, or are they antithetical, and so forth? And in the midst of that think tank, it occurred to me that we basically left out an important stakeholder in our win-win-win. We hadn't been paying attention to nature, and by showing our clients how to be more productive, we'd basically shown them how to increase throughput or how to deplete the world's resources better, faster, cheaper. And I was in a crisis. That was an epiphany for me. And I went to Marcia the next day and said we had to do something. And she said, well, like what? We're not chemical engineers. We're not biologists. What do we know? And I said, I don't know, but we have to figure this out. So I just wouldn't give up. And so the tools that I'm going to share with you are the same tools that I used for us to figure out where our role was in the universe of sustainability. One of the tools that I think is helpful for people is something I call the Lifeline. And I believe that there are certain themes that run through somebody's life that are always true, and if you can weave those themes together into a career, you end up with a calling, not just a job. And so what a timeline is or a lifeline is you lay out your life up until now, and you identify those points at which you can look back to and identify that was the first time it was clear that I really loved this, and I still love this. And it might be something that you love to do, or it might be something, an interest area or an issue that you really care about. In my case, I can point back to being about 2.5 years old that I was the first time I can point to where it was clear that I loved nature. I wanted my mom to put pictures of bees and flowers and trees on the wall of my bedroom so that when I had to take a nap, I could pretend I was still outside. And then when I was in second grade, my love of teaching emerged. I was working with a friend of mine who probably had dyslexia, but we didn't know what that was back then. And I was trying to help her read, and I was just fascinated with how do I get what's in my head into your head when you clearly don't get it yet. So And my love of writing showed up back then. And so if you can figure out what those things are that you have always loved, and then you can start brainstorming with yourself and other people about how those things might weave together. So the next thing that I did that was a big help was I sort of made a mind map of the skills that we were good at. So for Marcia and me, our experience or our skills that we're good at and we also like doing. There are things that you're good at that you probably don't enjoy, like budgeting. I don't like that, but I'm good at it. But these are the things that we were good at that we enjoyed doing. So like teaching, you picked that up from my lifeline. We're good at facilitation, team building. We'd work with all these teams. We were good at getting organizations to change. And then what I went out and did was informational interviews with people who were in related fields like environmental engineering or something like that, and said, do you see a place where any of these skills might be helpful in the context of sustainability? And I would let them draw on my mind map, and they'd come up with ideas, and they'd see connections between some of these things. And they'd start writing different types of work that how these skills might relate to sustainability. And sometimes they'd come up with things that didn't interest me, but every once in a while somebody would say something and I go, oh, that is really interesting to me. Can you suggest 3 people I could talk to who could help me understand more about that? So this process of going from your lifeline and then creating this mind map, which may pull things from your lifeline but also include other things and then other skill sets, and then go out into the real world and say, where do you see these being helpful in service of sustainability? And I will tell you, I fully expected people to tell me, Darcy, why don't you go back and get a master's in ecology? You have nothing to offer. But I was so surprised to have like engineers and people like that tell me, oh my goodness, do we need you? Because to do this sustainability work, you're always working with teams of people, some of whom have very different perspectives or are from different parts of the company, and we don't know how to facilitate them. And the technical problems about do you use this chemical or that chemical are not usually the big problems. It's how do you get organizations to change, and you know how to do that. So then it was just a matter of coming up to speed on what sustainability meant, and we started working along those lines. So the questions that it's helpful for you to answer if you want input from other people about where you might fit is, first, what unique skills and experience do you bring? What's special about you, and what industries interest you the most? Sometimes people come to me for informational interviews and they say, I want to get into sustainability, and it's like, oh great, well, that's like a gigantic field. But if they say, well, I'm really interested in finance and banking, or I'm really interested in manufacturing and I have a background in lean manufacturing, it's like, oh, now I can think of 20 people you should talk to. So another question, do you want to be employed or be an entrepreneur or consultant? Those are 2 very different paths, and some people are appropriate for one and some people would really be happy in the other. And where do you want to work? Inside, outside? What sort of context? What kind of work relationships do you want? If you can answer those questions, then you can go out and do informational interviews. And here's how that works. You start with somebody you know that you've talked to about your mind map, and you've asked them, do you have a couple people that might be able to tell me more about this thing that you were just talking about? And then they give you the contact information. So you call that person and you say, hi, your very dear friend Joe Blow suggested I talk to you, and because you're hitching onto their relationship, they're much more likely to talk to you. And make it clear that you're not looking for a job, you're just looking for information about the field, which that makes people much more likely to be honest with you. So set up a meeting in person or by phone and ask for advice. You can share with them your mind map as well, and see how they see your skills being of value. And then if they say something that piques your interest, ask for 3 more people that they know and ask if you can use their name. And then you start this process over again. After the informational interview, it's very important to send a handwritten thank you note, not an email. I mean, an email's fine, but I would follow up with a nice handwritten note, because nobody does that anymore, and you've just taken half an hour of this person's time. And also, you can stay in touch if you heard something that they talked about that you think, and you come across an article related to that, send it to them saying, thanks again for the informational interview. I came across this, thought you might be interested, or get back in touch with them and say, oh my gosh, Francine, who you put me in touch with, was so helpful. Thank you again. So you want to leave a positive impression in this person's mind, so they'll do an informational interview for somebody else. So some key principles about finding your a happy place for you in the sustainability arena. Combining your skills and interests in service of a mission transforms a job into a calling. And I feel like sustainability has done that for me. It's taken my interest in nature and my love of teaching and my interest in business and my interest in science, and it's just pulled it all together into this cord, into this really thick cord that tugs on me, and this is work I have to do. It's not just a job. You have to interact with the real world to find your place, and your role may change over time. Marcia and I frequently, every couple years, are having a serious conversation about, well, what does the world need from us now that the world has changed. Ask for help from others in the universe. It's amazing what happens when you start getting the word out that you're interested in something. And the more specific you are about your desires, the more helpful others can be for you. So be specific. Don't feel like if you narrow it down too much. You can always pick a different path later and say, well, now I'm interested in agriculture. Last time I talked to you, I was interested in banking. But be specific, and that will help people think of others that you should talk to. And ultimately, sustainability must infuse everything like quality did in the 1980s. So there's a place for absolutely everybody on this sustainability train, I promise. Whoever you are, whatever your gifts are, there's a place to embed sustainability into that. And maybe it's a new job, maybe it's your existing job. That's okay as well. So if you want an informational interview after going this process, I'm happy to do that with you. Get in touch with me via email or phone and send me your lifeline and your mind map. And then if you want more help, I'm happy on a fee basis to provide coaching, but I sort of have to cut it off after the informational interview since I do so many, and I hope that's okay. So I'm happy to try to get you started on your right path, and best of luck to you. We need absolutely everybody in this field.